So, firstly, I just want to say a big thank you to Gavin for coming on for this masterclass. I've known Gavin for a few years, so we'll go into that in a second. But Gavin's background has been in nutrition for some 15 years, as far as I've been aware, and he's worked with top-level sportsmen and top-level teams. And I think what he doesn't know about nutrition isn't worth knowing to some extent. So, yeah, and you've also, been competing, you've competed yourself, haven't you, Gavin? Quite a top level.
Yeah, I used to play, like back in the day, I played like championship level rugby. I've done indoor rowing, won the European Championships on the old Concept 2 rowing machine for my age group.
Yeah.
Done an Ironman, also do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, like to keep active, and rugby coach my son and his team now as well. So,
fantastic. What was it that took you down the nutrition path, Gavin, particularly?
Well, funnily enough, it started when I was doing the indoor rowing. I knew that I could, improve my times, and I was looking for an extra edge because I was like on the cusp of winning medals, like at the British Championships and stuff. And that led me to get into contact with a top nutritionist called Matt Sutton. And at that point, I wasn't really, into nutrition. I was doing internet marketing and stuff. Anyway, we started working together, and because I've got a background from having done a biology degree, so I had a scientific background. He said, look, why don't you just, get a qualification, and then we can work together and we can do nutrition stuff. So that was about 15 years or so ago. So since then, I've been, into nutrition.
Awesome. So did you find that, by going down that road, it gave you the edge in sport?
Oh yeah, definitely. I was doing lots of like ergogenic supplements, even just things like using creatine. Beta-alanine was another one that buffers your lactic acid. And I even tried bicarbonate loading, which is very, very dangerous if you get the wrong amounts. It's like liquid diarrhea coming out. So you don't want that happening when you're on the rowing machine. So you've got to get the level spot on. So yeah, no, I really got into it, and like left no stone unturned, trying to get that edge to shave off a couple of things here and there.
Fantastic. Right, so I'm gonna start with a few questions. So obviously, one of the reasons why I decided to open this up to the podcast and to some of our groups is I think you'll probably agree that the keto movement is still in its infancy. Across the globe, but particularly in the UK, right? That the product that you and we've been just started using, or you've been using a lot longer because you've been importing it from the US. We were doing that for a while. We sort of gave up, but now we've got some good news recently that we're able to get hold of that product, and actually utilize and understand ketones. Why do you feel like the keto conversation is one that's here to stay, as opposed to there's so many fad diets that come along and come and go, and why is this different?
Yeah, there's obviously diets which are all the flavor of the month, and they last for a couple of years before somebody else does something different. We actually was on a call the other night, and I think the ketogenic diet will probably be like that. And just in case anybody doesn't know, the ketogenic diet is, probably one of, is very efficient for losing fat. Yeah, so you can lose, fat really quickly if you follow it, like any diet. But the problem it often has is it's really hard to comply with it and be 100% accurate with it, because the premise of it and how you get ketones into your blood is following the ketogenic diet. You can only have a maximum of 20 grams of carbs a day. So that's like one apple and you're over your carb limit, one slice of. So for a lot of people, they can do it for a little while to get some results, 1-2 months, they can batten down the hatches. But then, they'll go away for a wedding, or, they'll have some wine, beers, they're off the wagon, and then it's easy to slip back into the old habits.
Yeah.
So that's the ketogenic diet. Now, the benefit of the ketogenic diet is your body then starts producing ketones because you're breaking down fat and using that fat for fuel. So you can either have a high fat, low carb diet to get ketones in your blood, or you can do prolonged fasting. Yeah. So when you do a prolonged fast, probably over 24 hours, your glycogen will have been burnt. So all that's left then is your fat. So your body will start breaking down fat and producing ketones. And the benefits of when you're in ketosis is you've got like high levels of mental awareness, your appetite is suppressed, and you've got additional energy. So, you feel good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's happened recently, about 5 years ago, and this was based out of research that NASA and the US Navy SEALs did, was they actually have manufactured a drink that gives you drinkable ketones.
So like sometimes it's difficult to get enough protein from your food. People use protein powders and protein shakes to top up their protein levels. Would you say that's like a similar analogy where, this is just a way of getting an energy source into your system without having your body to create it itself?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's quite a good analogy. I like that. I'll have to think about it a little bit, because what we're actually, because obviously you can get protein from your food if you decided you wanted to do that you just described, but you can't.
Your body can't really produce it, can't it, in a negative way? That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah. So you can only really get, the only way you can get ketones is by having that strict compliance in terms of keeping your carbs down or fasting. But now, yeah, you can get drinkable ketones, which is great because you get all those benefits without. And one of the analogies as well is that if you think about how we've adapted over generations, you look back at what our Paleolithic ancestors would have done. They would have had times where there was no food available. Yeah, they have to go on the march to find something. They didn't have Mars bar trees that they could just go and pick up stuff. So that's why we evolved to be able to store fat. So we stored fat so that we could get through times of famine. We don't have famines now, so there's food availability all the time, high carb food. So that actually makes us store more fat, and we want to get away from that. So we were really designed to be able to run on ketones when we needed to go and hunt and find things and be aware, have energy, because if you didn't have energy and you had to go and hunt down a deer or something, you were going to starve and you were going to die.
Yeah. I think a lot of people aren't aware that, that there are sort of two fuels, that your body can run on, like the glucose and the ketones. And, how do ketones, why is it that you can get more mental clarity, and how does it actually work in terms of what, because some of our members quite like some of the science behind what actually happens to the body that helps us regulate our appetite better when we're in a keto state rather than a glucose state and you've been eating bread and chocolate all day.
Okay, so when you're eating bread and chocolate, your body, this is an interesting fact, you might not know this, so I'll put you on the spot. How many teaspoons of sugar are dissolved in our blood at any one time? So you've got 8 pints of blood. How many teaspoons worth of sugar have you got circulating around your blood?
Oh,
maybe
no.
if any.
I don't know that one. No.
Okay, 2 teaspoons.
Wow, is that all?
You've only got 10 grams of glucose in your blood at any one time.
Wow, I was going to guess at like 8-ish, so 2.
Yeah. So you have a Mars bar, which might be, I'm not sure how, a Mars bar is like 60 grams, probably 30 grams of sugar. That goes straight into your blood because there's no digestion really involved. So what's your body got to do? It's got to get rid of that sugar. Yeah, and it can't have that sugar rolling around in your blood. So what happens is gets rid of that sugar by the insulin converting that into fat.
Yeah.
Okay. unless you've exercised. If you've exercised and you're having your Mars bar after you've exercised, it'll get converted into your glycogen and stored there. But generally, we're overeating, so that's how we actually store fat from using carbs. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
Second question was about the brain clarity. How does it help us with that?
Okay, yeah. So ketones are preferentially used by two organs in the body, the heart and the brain, the two most important organs. So if you imagine if you were fasting, you need your brain and your heart to be working. If you're like, starving, like you've got 2 weeks, you need that to be able to work and to get you round. So the ketones are used there. Now, one of the other things that often happens with, particularly as we age, our brain loses the ability to uptake glucose. Okay. So you may have heard, obviously you've heard of Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
They call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes.
Wow.
Okay. Because your brain won't uptake the glucose. Now, ketones are uptaken by the brain by a different mechanism that's not dependent on glucose. So even though your brain and your nerve cells aren't getting the energy they need from the glucose, they can get that energy from ketones. So we've had quite a few elderly people with cognitive decline start to get some of that function back.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that was one of my questions, was what have been some success stories? Obviously we know about the weight loss ones, but what have been some of the health success stories, from of people that you've worked with that have used ketones for not necessarily just weight loss, but more sort of health benefits?
Yeah, we have to be careful in terms of what we say in terms of compliance reasons. So you can't really say, like anything too medical. But if there's one researcher that's done a lot of work. She's looked at migraines, Dr. Eleanor Gross. So she was a migraine sufferer, did come across the ketogenic diet, and then started using ketones. And she's written a PhD about that. And some of the main areas are more around mood, and stress levels and anxiety and things like that, because they tend, and research is being done on this. If you look up ketones and pretty much any medical condition that you think of, there's likely to be some research going on about that, particularly around the neurological functions. So I mentioned Alzheimer's. There's a lady called Dr. Mary Newport. She did a lot of work with coconut oil initially, helping her husband with early onset Alzheimer's.
Right. Okay.
So, cool. but going back to the fat loss, which I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in, is it works by a number of levels, and I think I didn't answer this before. One of the things it does, we've got a hunger hormone called ghrelin. Okay, yeah. So when you have ketones, it down-regulates that hunger hormone, so you don't get as much of that produced, so you don't feel as hungry. So one of the ways we tell people to start off drinking the ketones is wake up in the morning, have some water to hydrate yourself. Then have a sachet, maybe half to one sachet of ketones. Drink it slowly over about 40 minutes, and then wait until you're hungry, till you have your first meal. Yeah. And I'll get people messaging me, Gav, it's 2:00 now. I'm getting a bit worried. Should I eat? Are you feeling hungry? No, don't eat then. Because often we're programmed to eat based on the time of day it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a masterclass last week actually, on helping people understand how many calories they can actually have before the glyconeogenesis, before the body starts to actually break down muscle, and it's a lot more than a lot of people think. But also there's the science to show that actually when you're in a ketogenic state, your muscle has much better muscle preservation capabilities, right?
Yeah, well, if you think of it from an environmental point of view, going back to our Paleolithic ancestor, yeah,
Yeah.
they've spent all summer eating berries and got a bit of a belly on them, yeah, because they need, so that's their storage tank. There's no food available for 2 or 3 days. What's your body going to do? Is it going to burn the fat that you've been storing up for that purpose? Or is it going to start breaking down your important muscle, which you might need for you to walk 100 miles to find something else to eat? It's going to use your muscle. It's going to use your fat preferentially over your muscle. That just seems, logical.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things as well, until you've experienced it. Like, I mean, I'm that guy, that person you just said you get the phone call from. So I had some water this morning, went for a long walk. I had my sachet when I got back, and yeah, I'm just not. I mean, I tend to fast till about lunchtime anyway, but I tend to get quite hungry, and I've got absolutely no hunger right now. And I definitely, it's one of those things. Until you feel it, it's kind of hard to describe, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and the only other way people generally feel it is when they do a longer fast, but that's not that popular. Yeah, so many, I can remember when I first started, looking at this. Even a friend of mine was saying, "Look, I just eat one meal a day," and I think, "Wow, how'd you do that? Get to 6 o'clock without eating?" Because I was, even though I was pretty low carb, I was still always eating all the time. But yeah, that's the thing. It's and now I regularly go 3 days without eating.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's science. Maybe we do another masterclass of that at some other point in the future.
Fasting.
There's good science behind doing a prolonged fast. Because you get what happens is your body starts to break down any poor performing cells, anything that's damaged, and it recycles those for energy. But
yeah, I'm really interested. Well, it's one of the few things that have been proven by science to actually improve your longevity, isn't it? The longer term fasting.
Yeah, well, I'm 50 now, so I'm starting to 51 now, so I'm starting to worry about all that sort of stuff.
One thing I want to ask, Gavin, because I know a lot of people, one of the myths that goes around, people get a little bit confused between being in ketosis and I think it's called ketoacidosis. Because a lot of people think that ketosis is like a dangerous state to be in. Can you just sort of share, why there's a big difference?
Yeah, so ketoacidosis is a complication of type 1 diabetes. So, and that can be dangerous if you get into that. So you or I, unless you've got type 1 diabetes, would never get into diabetic ketoacidosis. Okay. So that's why, if somebody is maybe a nurse or they're a type 1 diabetic, you say about ketones, they'll be like, oh no, they've been led to believe that it's it's dangerous. But the levels that people, the diabetic ketoacidosis is, you're getting over, like 10, 15 millimoles. But when you drink, if you do a fast, you probably get up to around 5 or 6, like maximum on day 3. When you're drinking the ketones, you might get anything between 1.5 to 2.5, that type of range. So, it's never going to get to the levels that are concerning from, from a diabetic ketoacidosis issue.
What? Just remind everyone again. What is the range that is considered you're in a keto state?
Anything above 0.5.
Right. Okay.
So if you're below 0.5, because people say to they'll let's say if you're doing Weight Watchers or something like that, and it was being successful, your body would be breaking down fat, and your body would be producing ketones. Yeah. Because obviously as you're losing weight, but the problem is you wouldn't be doing it fast enough. Those ketones would be kept on being used up. So you're never going to get it. You're never going to get above that 0.5. So as soon as you're breaking them down, it's going to be, and getting above 0.5, that's when you start getting more of the like the cognitive benefits, the hormonal benefits as well.
Right. Okay. And so, and in terms of testing that, what's your most recent, up to date, best tool for roughly good accuracy on testing? If someone was to want to kind of test, am I, because I suppose, most people that want to maybe either use the exogenous ketones or try a keto diet, the thing is, because a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to do it just through diet, do they? So unless you test, you've got no idea.
Yeah, it can take a couple of weeks to get into ketosis for some people, particularly if they are, got serious weight to lose, or they're, got some type of insulin resistance. There's three main ways you can test it. You can test like a urine stick.
Yep.
So like you wee on a little stick. So sometimes pregnant women will use that. The other way, you can get like a breath analyzer, which you breathe into. But the most accurate way is a blood test. And you get like these little finger pricks that diabetics use. I've got one here actually. Let me just show it to you. One of my clients is about to pick it up from me, so I've left it in the front door. So she hasn't come yet. I don't think she's come yet. So just go and show you.
Okay. Guys, if you have any questions, just a reminder, just throw them in the chat box, and I'll do a bit of a Q&A with Gavin in a second.
Yeah, so you've got like a little meter like this, and you get like one of these lancets that you finger prick.
Okay.
Finger prick with this, and then you put like a test strip in the meter, and the blood sucks it up on the test strip.
Okay, cool. Does that do glucose as well?
Yeah, it does glucose as well.
Okay. What's the make and model of that one, Gavin?
This one's Keto Mojo. So it's Mojo, M-O-J-O. It's put a link into the show notes, because the guy who set that company up, it's like a family-run business, and like they're taking on the likes of Abbott, the big, massive multinational pharmaceutical company.
Right.
That's a really good one, and it's got some advantages over the other ones that are in the marketplace. But to be honest, though, unless you're a really geeky, nerdy, OCD type of person,
this is why I
bother. I do it occasionally, but I'm not really that. You soon get to know and feel when you're in ketosis. Because you're like a little bit bouncy and a little bit lively. You're not worried about it.
So that's a good point. So who, obviously you've mentioned some benefits there. Who do you feel generally would really suit, trying, either just trying, seeing how they feel on ketones? Who do you generally say it really suits? Obviously, it's easy to say it's going to help. Can help everyone, but
it depends what your what your goals are, and that can depend on what time of day you may want to use the ketones. Yeah, so some people will use them as a pre-workout supplement if they want to actually feel like they've got some energy if they're struggling. Other people might have a bit of an afternoon dip and feel that they need like a little bit of energy there to get like from say 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's generally, though, more than likely they've probably had some carbs at lunchtime that's making them a little bit rosy in the afternoon. And then other people, they use them to actually help themselves sleep. Yeah, so you can actually get improved sleep from using ketones and having them later in the day. But generally it's people either looking for the appetite suppression and the extra energy, the mood enhancement, which is good. I have lots of people, I had one lady say to me, said, "Oh, my husband said I wasn't such a moody bitch now since I've been drinking it, since I've been drinking the ketones," which is obviously
great testimonial, that one.
And even, and works the other way. Men stop being, like one of the guys I know, Dave. He said, "Look, I haven't shouted at my kids once since I've been drinking these." Where it's quite easy to get a bit of a yeah. So there's the applications are quite wide ranging. So one of the things is I'd say to people, look, give them a try, and see how you feel. But if you are going to give them a try, make sure you're communicating with somebody like myself, or yourself, who's got a little bit of a knowledge on how to actually use them to get the best out of them. Because often what happens is people will change their diet, they'll stop eating carbs, they'll start drinking ketones, and they may, they'll deplete their electrolyte levels as a result of that. And then they may get headaches, and then they'll say, the ketones gave me a headache. Well, no, it wasn't the ketones that gave you a headache. It's because you weren't having any extra salt. So you may need to adjust that. So if you're working with somebody, like myself, or anybody else who knows about these products, they can actually help you, support you to make sure you get the best out of them. And we will, I often help people do that, so to make sure they get the best.
Yeah, and you guys, like members watching this, I mean, for me, when Gavin contacted me a few weeks ago and said, "Oh, Matt, got some good news. The ketones that you were using a few years ago, they're actually going to be available in the UK now." I mean, prior to that, I was trying to do what you said and sort of go all in and do the keto diet. The conclusion I came to, and I've actually stuck to it since doing that, is for me a lot of supplements really, it's not using them as a tool, as opposed to the answer. So like for me, I use protein powders as a tool. I use vitamin D, like when the weather's not like this, as a tool. And like the ketones for me is just a tool to help keep my appetite a bit more regulated than it normally would. So yes, you can go full on, let's go keto and let's do fasting every day and high fat diets, but like you said, I think, I don't know, what I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Like I quite enjoyed it for probably a few weeks, and then started to miss a bit of chocolate, started to miss the odd beer now and again, or a glass of wine or so. And I was like, you know what, this isn't for me. And like at the end of the day, a good diet is one that's the best diet is the one that's the most sustainable, isn't it? And so it's finding out, it's trying stuff and seeing what's most sustainable for you. How often do you go keep like full on keto? Is it, do you not?
No. No, I usually start each week like on a Monday by fasting. So I won't eat on a Monday, or I might just have one meal on Monday night. So if I have had a few beers, or our local fish and chip shop's opening on the weekend, so we might go and support them, and only to support them.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Support them.
That's what you do, isn't it? There's going to be a lot of people supporting McDonald's soon, apparently.
I draw the line somewhere. This is a family-run fish and chip shop.
Yeah.
So to be honest, and like to have the occasional beer and stuff. I'm in rugby circles, so don't want to be the person who never has a beer, because I enjoy having a beer. So that's, and the majority of the people are like that. If you said, look, you can never have a beer, again, otherwise you're going to be out of. I was on one forum once, and this woman was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to have any of my wedding cake because it's going to knock me out of ketosis. I'm like, get a life. Get a life. Yeah, come on. It's not going to kill you to be out of ketosis by having a bit of wedding cake on your wedding day if you want it. Anyway, so that's a bit of my my take on all of that.
Yeah. No, awesome. So Sarah's got a question. I always thought it's better to eat early doors and eat less towards the end of the day. Is this flipping it on its head? You want to go for that, Gavin?
You know, it's whatever works for you. You know, and part of the intermittent fasting is having a bit of a fasting, like, you know, window to,
Yeah.
you know, and part of the reason why it works is because you end up having like one less meal. So you can flip it on its head and do like that, have your breakfast, and, you know, maybe stop eating at, you know, like 4 o'clock or something, and then go through until 9 o'clock the next day. You know, that could be a way that you could do it. But you know, I like to think about, you know, giving your body a little bit of a rest, you know, like throughout the day. And if you wake up and you're having breakfast at 7, then you're having a hobnob at, you know, 10 or 2, probably 2 or 3 hobnobs if you, then you know, your lunch, you know, you're always eating all the time. So it's not giving your body any chance to, you know, like recover and repair. So, you know, skipping a meal and just having 2 meals and 1 snack, wherever you put those in your day, I think is a good thing to be able to do.
Yeah, I think you probably agree with me, Gavin. I think that idea of eating early doors is one of the weight loss diet myths, isn't it? Because I think there is some truth to it, because obviously the first meal can set you up for the rest of the day. Like if you have a really high carby meal to start the day and you're shooting your blood sugar levels up, you know, you're going to hit a crash, and then you're going to be more likely to be chasing that high. I think you probably agree that it's not necessarily how early you have that first meal. It's what that first meal is that dictates the success of the rest of the day.
Yeah, that can be a big thing. Yeah, so you don't want, because most breakfasts we have, you know, would be like, you know, cereals, you know, which are pretty much pure sugar.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that creates a, you know, hormonal cascade, and you're right, you know, it's like a blood sugar roller coaster throughout the course of the day.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions just on the subject of ketones? If you do, just post them in the chat box like Sarah did. Hopefully that answered your question, Sarah. I think just one thing to add to that as well is you know, I think again, I think Gavin would be on point with me here, is ultimately the amount of calories that you consume in any given sort of 24-hour period is a far better thing to shoot for than when you have those calories, whether it be in the morning or the evening, which is why intermittent fasting can work really well, because you can have a window of eating of say 8 hours, you know, and providing you're hitting that amount of calories that's going to still put you, if your goal is weight loss, to put you in a calorie deficit, then you're going to achieve your goals. The question is how easy is it to maintain a fast for 16 hours? And that I guess that's where, you know, being in a ketogenic state and being able to, you know, regulate your appetite makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So no questions, guys? No more questions? Is there any questions that you think the typical ones that you get, Gavin, that I've missed?
I don't know. I think it's just a case, you know, this is, you know, it's like new area. It's emerging science. It's going to become mainstream. You know, you guys are hearing about this, you know, like first, you know, pretty much, you know, early adopters. Lots of people are going to be talking about ketones. Okay, how does it compare to the Atkins diet? Good question, Yvonne. Yeah, I did the Atkins back in the day when I was younger. And how it compares to the Atkins diet is not, well, for a start, a high-fat, low-carb diet like that I follow does have some carbs in it. Okay, but if you're thinking about the strict ketogenic diet compared to Atkins, there's a lot more vegetables and a higher focus on the quality of the fats that you're getting. Yeah, so what you'd be thinking about, you know, whereas, you know, Atkins would be like just eat anything, you know, gorge on, you know, pork scratchings and all that type of stuff. Whereas a well-formulated ketogenic diet, you can have olive oil, you can have coconut oil, you can have grass-fed butter, you can have avocados, some nuts and seeds for your good quality fats. And then also the other thing that you end up having a lot of is you end up having a lot of vegetables. You know, you'd be surprised how many vegetables: broccoli, cabbage, sprouts, gherkins, olives, you know, any salad, celery, all sorts of things, you know, green leafy vegetables, spring greens. You know, there's so many, you end up having a massive pile of vegetables with some butter on, and, you know, some curry or a piece of meat, you know. So the keto food is amazing in terms of how good and tasty it is.
Yeah, that actually brings me on to a point that I don't know if you come across a lot. I did when I was doing keto, and a few of our members were. One of the mistakes I think a lot of people make, I don't know if you agree with this, is their calories, they tend to go a little high calorie, or they lose track of their calories because the mindset is like they're in this amazing fat burning state, and their just body is just like a fat burning machine. And as long as they just keep him fat and keep the carbs below 20 grams, like you said earlier, then they're just going to keep burning fat, and it doesn't work. At the end of the day, it's still a case of calories in, calories out, right?
Yeah, you still got to get that balance right, and you know, you got to eat to like your hunger levels. If you are like eating, you know, being more mindful of your hunger and eating to that, even if you weren't tracking the calories. But yeah, you know, you can definitely you know, put on weight following a ketogenic diet, because you are you know, you're burning fat, but you're burning the fat that you're eating. You're not tapping into your body fat, you know. So you got to get that balance right, sure.
Yeah, you've got to get that calorie deficit still. We've got a few questions.
Saying about following a vegan vegetarian diet. Yeah. So, you know, following a vegan vegetarian diet is pretty much, you know, very, very restrictive and very hard to get into ketosis, because, you know, all the major protein sources you'd have as a vegan, you know, like your pulses, you know, your rice, your grains, they're all going to come with a high amount of carbs with them. So you're going to be really hard. You're going to just be, you know, drinking coconut milk and eating coconut oil. So for a vegan, it's really hard to do. That's where the ketone sachets can really come in and help. So you can get the benefits of being in ketosis in terms of the mental clarity, the focus, but without having to be that uber strict on the amount of carbs you'd have. And I'd still recommend doing a little bit of intermittent fasting as well with the and some of the longer fasts if you're vegan or vegetarian. Vegetarian's more fine if you obviously eat eggs, because you can have a lot of eggs as a vegetarian.
Yeah. So Sarah has asked, you mentioned your age, Gavin. Is there a good way to eat for us older ones to eat when we also need to look at anti-inflammatory foods? So foods that help prevent disease issues with bone density. Does that help with that and nutrition absorption?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things ketones have been shown to do is to reduce inflammation. Yeah, they work on a number of different metabolic pathways, and you can look up ketones and inflammation. There's quite a few scientific studies which have looked at that. So that's one of the benefits that people actually, you know, get from either the keto diet or from drinking ketones. And as we age as well, the more important thing is the cognitive function, because what we want to be able to have is, you know, we're getting 70, 80, 90 years old now. We're living longer, but most of those people who are living longer, their health isn't that great. You know, you might live to 90, but the last 10, 15 years of it might be in a nursing home. Nobody wants that, obviously, particularly what's been going on at the moment. So, yeah, so, you know, that cognitive decline, the early starts of it, you know, can take 20 years before you actually get diagnosed with, you know, with a condition. So you want to start preventing that now.
Someone asked me in a PM about alcohol. Can you still be in keto with alcohol in your diet? That's pretty much a no, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're following a ketogenic diet, no, you know, that will knock you out of. Well, no, there are some provisos. there are a few drinks which people might want to hear about, which are good in terms of keeping you in ketosis. And there was a book from the 70s called The Drinking Man's Diet. Yeah, look it up on seriously.
Great name.
So it was pretty much a high-fat, low-carb diet, and it had so the drinks you can have are spirits, your whiskeys, your brandies, your gins, your vodkas. But if you're having those, you've obviously got to have them with a low-cal mixer.
Yeah. Okay. No, well, I think we've learned quite a lot there about keto and about ketones and the benefits it has on the body. If anyone else did have any last questions, then hit us up now. So I'm really excited to kind of connect with Gavin again, and we've just ordered in some of these ketones. I believe that the reason why we're able to get them in the UK now is that there's a factory shop up in, is it Holland, Gavin?
Yeah, there's going to be a warehouse set up in Holland, so we'll be able to order directly, like from the 8th of June. If you need any before then, I think you'll have access to some that you can get hold of, or even put in a pre-order if somebody wants to get some.
So yeah, because the company that make it or manufacture it, so one of their recommendations is to start by just going through a 10-day experience, right? So how does that work? It's just two sachet drinks a day, right?
Yeah. So you'd have one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And then whatever meals you want. You don't necessarily have to change your meals, but you want to be thinking about maybe moving towards a high-fat, low-carb type of diet, and cutting out some of the processed carbs. There's not going to be many people that don't agree that cutting out processed carbs from your diet is going to be a good thing. I find it hard for people to say that, to make an argument for that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, what I'm planning on doing is offering some of our members a chance to, if they want to upgrade, we're going to be running a 21-day wellness challenge. I think I mentioned it too. So I think because of the timings of when products will be available, we're going to probably use the last 10 days of that 21-day for people to add some ketones to the diet. So, if that sounds cool to any of you guys listening, then you know how to contact me. I'll be giving all you guys details before then. It's all obviously very new to myself, and we're still finding out all the logistics details and stuff like that. But
well, and the other thing, Matt, as well, is if you've got like a private members group or something, by all means add me in there, and I can come in and chime in and ask any questions, answer any questions people have got, and help anybody out. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, well, we did like I think before it was like a 5-day experience. So we've got a group already set up. So I'll probably just use that. And then, anyone on this call that wants to be added or get the link to that group, because we've already got quite a few resources in there. We've got like keto recipes. I'm actually, cool. It's weird that this came, I've just been working on a keto recipe cookbook recently as well, so that will come out. That'll be quite good timing, because like you said, it's not about it doesn't, just because I'm getting a keto recipe cookbook lined up doesn't mean that I or you, anyone watching, has to go keto. It's just a fat loss tool. Those of you that want to lose weight, the key is getting that calorie deficit in, and if that means spending some time in a state of ketosis where your appetite is regulated better, then it just makes it easier. You're not having to fight the hunger of, or what we hear all the time, I wish I had more willpower to not eat so often or not eat sugar. When you're in a state of ketosis, you just don't have to have so much willpower. You just feel, I'm good.
Excellent.
So yeah,
well, superb, Matt. Well, thanks for having me on. I love sharing this. And if there's any people as well who we're looking as well to help people expand this conversation. So I don't know if any of your clients are already into this as a way of eating. by all means reach out, because we're looking for other advocates as well to fight the sugar rebellion and take on the McDonald's of this world.
Yeah, I think, well, that is a society shift that's needed, right? Massively.
Cool.
Great. All right. Cheers, Gavin. And
no
thanks
worries,
to
Matt.
everyone.
I'll catch you soon.